welcome into Are You Cirrus, episode 10. I am meteorologist Andrew Dockery.
And I am Chief Meteorologist Jamie Arnold here at WMBF News. And we were just talking about bragging a little bit. Let's go ahead and do it.
Our numbers.
Our successes.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Over 2,000 views now on YouTube. Thank you to everyone who's listened. You have the download numbers.
Yeah, 600 on Spotify and what's the other one?
Apple.
Yeah,
Apple. Those are the main
600 downloads on those two.
Which is
so
nuts.
we're happy about that. And anecdotally,
Yeah.
We both had things happen this past Saturday.
Yeah.
When we were at the Derby party, you said someone came up to you and said, "Love the podcast."
Yeah. That was the first time ever in public.
Right. After the Derby party, me and some of the WMBF gang ended up at the after party at Pine Lakes Tavern. And Julie Carr, it was her birthday.
Okay.
So we celebrated her birthday, total random stranger. But the first thing she said to me was, "We love listening to your podcast."
We have made it.
And so, we're kind of used to people coming up to us, "Oh, I love watching you."
Yes.
I got so excited when somebody said they listened to the podcast.
Yeah.
So, Julie,
That's big.
you made my night.
That's big.
Yeah.
I remember the first time someone told me they enjoyed me on Dining with Dockery.
Yeah.
So to actually get that for the Are You Serious? It's people are listening.
People are actually listening.
And it's it's more than just the traditional viewers too. We always have our loyal list, which we love. But to get those people, that's awesome.
Yeah. So
for that to happen,
right, both on the same night. Yeah, that was good. I enjoyed that.
And I think it was because of a lot of the momentum from Matt.
Yes.
Matt V2.
Matt V2, Fratty Matty, Grilled Cheese Matt. We had such a good time with both Matt and Robert as our first two guests. So take a little break from guests for now, but we're going to have some more lined up.
We do. And I don't know. I know we're doing this every week. I don't know if we're ever going to just end this look and go to maybe a different look and still do it every week and call it season 2, or if we're just going to say this is season 2.
I'm going to make the executive decision right now. And actually, I made it a few weeks ago. I wish we could do it now, but we have to change this look.
So we could change the look and call it season 2, but you won't miss out on weeks of episodes.
And the real reason that we want to change the look is because of this
our
view,
look
right here. It is the most unflattering camera view ever, and I can't stand it. I love doing this podcast. But when I sit down and see myself on that camera view, it is awful.
If you're listening, because I know we do have listeners, 600 of you, just imagine, rolls of our...
I look like I weigh 600 pounds.
I try to wear the largest shirt possible.
Right. I did too this morning, and it still doesn't work. So, whatever. I mean, I'm not exactly a tiny guy.
Yeah.
But we got to work on this camera angle.
When we went to the mountains, I just thought about this. When we went to the mountains with my family, my dad actually said that he was disappointed that I never mentioned him on the podcast.
Aww.
So, Dad, here's your mention. And then he said, I laugh every time you say we're still not canceled. So I have to throw that in for old time's sake there. For
10 episodes in and still not canceled and still making it.
Yeah, he gets jealous anytime I bring up Mom since she's in the business.
Right.
We had a couple of comments come through, and the premiere for Matt was the best premiere we've ever had.
Really loving those premieres.
I am too.
It's fun to get in there and chat with people and kind of go even a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
So if you haven't done the premieres yet on YouTube, Thursday nights at 7:30, they're really fun.
They're fun. You get to chat about what we were talking about. Even I'll listen to the conversation. I'm present.
Yeah.
But I'm I don't remember him saying that. Or the quick witty humor of you and Matt.
Right.
Matt had a couple one-liners. I was how did I miss that? If you listen to us, maybe you join us at 7:31 Thursday night on YouTube. But on that premiere, and then he left a comment as well on the YouTube page. He said, it was great getting to know Matt V2. This is from Andy. He says, I watch WMBF News every morning, and it's nice to have the interviews to get to know you both because he loves watching you and me in the morning when you're here too. He said, it would be awesome to do the same style interviews we did with Matt and Robert with the anchors.
And we're planning on that.
I know.
We are planning on that. It'll be fun.
It's going to be a blast.
Yeah, especially with that morning crew.
Oh, Darian.
I'm a little... Darian, yes, but I'm also a little bit worried about me and Lauren together because me and Lauren, we get together.
Giddy.
And, we can be troublemakers. We're those two kids at the back of the class that are giggling and
Now, Lauren, we may have to get some wine when you come on the podcast if you're ever listening to this.
Yeah, we can make that happen. Yeah. Or she'll probably bring her own in her coffee mug.
She'll bring her own bottle in a coffee mug. Yeah. All right, our questions for this week. I'm really excited about a couple of these for different reasons. First, James said in a recent episode that I said how much rain I received in a recent storm, which is crazy. I don't even remember saying that, but apparently I did. James says, what kind of weather stations do you all use if you have them? Or if you don't have them, why don't you have weather stations? I'll be honest with you, James. I just use the typical rain gauge that you could buy at Walmart for $4.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with those.
And I actually broke mine about a week ago on the weed eater. So I have to go buy it. It's in the hardware section. It's like $4. It's AccuRite. I used to have a weather station.
Yeah.
It's a lot to keep up with.
They are. And if you want anything resembling accurate data,
they're expensive.
They're kind of expensive, and you have to be really particular, and they have to be calibrated. I don't have the time or the energy.
Yeah.
I don't even have a rain gauge at my house. I live in the woods.
Yeah.
So rain gauges, it's, I don't have anywhere accurate to get reliable rainfall. So I just kind of gauge how wet the ground is and how many puddles there are. That's my rain gauge.
Well, got about an inch.
Yeah.
So yes, James, if you do have a weather station, if you're looking for tips and you want us to help you, I know just the team member, meteorologist Robert Whitehurst, would be able to tell you that because he is fascinated with that stuff.
Yeah, he loves that stuff. He's an instrument guy. Or if you're just interested in rain.
Ooh, I like that. I know where you're going.
If you just want to do rain, you can join what's called CocoRAHS. CocoRAHS.
Yes.
Do you remember what it stands for?
Oh.
Cooperative. I'm going to look it up. Cooperative something. Anyway, you can sign up for CocoRAHS, and they will actually send you a free National Weather Service approved rain gauge. Community collaborative
research.
Hold on.
RAH is probably rain or something.
Yeah. Grassroots. Okay, they have everything about CocoRAHS except for what it stands for. Community Collaborative Rain, Hail, and Snow Network.
Oh, okay, yeah, because you report if you saw that too.
So Google CocoRAHS.
Yeah.
If you want a free rain gauge, and you can get one, and you can actually submit your data to the National Weather Service. And because it's a National Weather Service rain gauge, they know that it's very accurate. Your $4 one from Walmart, it's fine. But if you want the really good stuff, really good measurements, these are kind of big rain gauges that they send you from CocoRAHS. And they're really cool. They can hold a lot of rain. So if you get 20 inches in a hurricane, it's going to hold a lot of that.
Yeah.
So CocoRAHS is great. And
basically with that program, you report to them every morning.
Yeah.
Either 0, a tenth of an inch, whatever.
Yeah.
And it goes out and it actually comes to us.
Yeah, we can
so
actually
you would be
access.
helping us out if you got a part of CocoRAHS.
Yeah.
Because then when we make the rainfall totals maps, people always ask, well, where are you pulling that from?
Right.
Well,
there you go. CocoRAHS.
A CocoRAHS station somewhere else.
So CocoRAHS.
CocoRAHS. James, thank you for that question. Rose asked a good one, and it's a good thing when we were talking about severe weather. I've been saving some of these questions. I think I have a list of about 30 now, which is just nuts. Rose says the safest place to go if you're out and about during a tornado warning, which is good because we always preach like, hey, if you're in your home. But this is a good one, Rose. I like that, especially with severe weather season here.
It used to be back in the day, like I remember when I was young, like go in a ditch, find a ditch.
Yeah.
That needs to be like your last
resort.
Yep. And here's why. Ditches are nasty.
Yeah.
Especially around here. The last thing I want to do is to crawl into a water-filled, snake-infested ditch around here. That's terrible.
Especially like over in Conway where you got the marsh and the water.
Marsh,
and the water
no. So it's hard to say.
Yeah, because every situation is going to be different.
Every situation is different. It's hard to be somewhere where there is absolutely zero shelter.
Correct.
So, your car isn't an ideal spot.
Yeah.
Neither is a ditch.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
the nearest shelter possible.
Anything's going to be better than a ditch or your car.
I would say if you could put walls between you and outside, however that is.
Yeah, of some sort.
Get it done.
Yeah. Yeah. Better yet, if there's a risk of thunderstorms with tornadoes, keep up with it and don't be
have a plan
out in the middle of a field in the middle of nowhere when there might be a tornado.
Yeah, that's actually really good. And the tough part about that too is I know, if we were out in the plains, these storms wouldn't be rain wrapped, which means you can't see the tornado. But most of the time here in South Carolina,
it's rain wrapped.
It's going to be a bad storm. You don't even know. So you're probably hopefully going to be taking cover, or at least okay, let me slow down and pull off.
Yeah.
So good question, Rose. Yeah. And the reason we don't explain that as much is because it's hard to explain.
It is.
On air.
It is, yeah.
So the easiest thing is if you're home, you're taking place, but that would be for work or whatever too.
Right.
So good question. I have one question that I wanted to ask after listening, and then we'll get into our topic today. When it comes to hiring your meteorologist for your team, because
my team?
Yep, for your team. Your team.
Yep.
What are some things?
Why am I hiring a new one? Or what, you got something you want to tell me?
Bye, Felicia. What are some things you look for? Because we just got to know Matt and Robert. Obviously, I joined this team. What are some things that you look for? Qualities.
I really want to see the passion. I'm much more interested in that than I am what school you graduated from.
Yeah.
I want to see your severe weather experience, but really the passion. One of the favorite things I love to do with somebody who says they're into weather or may potentially be here is kind of
I know what you're going to say.
Walk outside with them.
Yeah.
And a true meteorologist, the second they open a door and walk outside, what's the first thing they do?
Look up.
They look up. Mm-hmm. And it's just habit because you just want to see what's going on.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I look for in somebody. Hey, let's go to lunch. Walk out the door. All right. This one has it in them because a lot of people, I think like us, we just have weather in us. Yeah. It's just, we don't know where it came from. It's not like we just decided, let me try this meteorologist thing. It's in us. And you're the same way. Just live, eat, and breathe weather. Nonstop.
It's so bad that even when I'm home.
Yeah.
I'm going to go peek out the window.
Right, yeah, always.
That cloud looks cool.
Yeah.
Let's snap a photo.
Yeah, and I live in the woods. If there's a storm coming or something, or even some fun-looking clouds, I will get in my car, drive out of my neighborhood, look around at the sky just to see what's going on.
Yeah. My favorite storm clouds, and this is so basic, is just to see the speed of the upper-level winds.
Yeah.
I could just sit, pull a beach chair, and just watch clouds roaring by.
All day. Yeah,
and I'm like, yo, these are crazy.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll text you all a lot these clouds are booking it today. But yeah, okay, good question.
Yeah, so I look for the passion, and you can pick out that passion.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I want you to be good and whatever, but yeah, I want that passion.
Passion comes easily with your little test. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I love that.
Apparently I looked up, so that's good news.
Yep. Yeah, you looked up.
All right, so we were discussing what we wanted to do for this upcoming episode, and you brought your glasses because we're getting nerdy.
Yeah, and I'm blind.
We've been talking about the hurricane. We've been talking about hurricanes a lot. In fact, we're circling back around. 23 days when we're recording. On Thursday, this is going to be 21 days until hurricane season. Dun, dun, dun. Here we are. When we talk about that, we were talking about the outlook and what Colorado State does, and NOAA's going to release theirs later this month. They're referencing El Niño.
Yes.
And you hear us say this a lot, and I always feel bad when we say it, because to the traditional viewer, they probably don't care, but to the Are You Serious junkies, we need a fan group.
Right.
Now, let me think on that. To our Are You Serious listeners, I know they're obsessed with the weather.
Yeah.
So El Niño and La Niña, pretty easy, but has some pretty big implications to the forecast.
Really does, and not just for hurricane season, but for
snow lovers,
cold weather lovers, rain lovers.
Yeah.
They're two very, I don't want to say simple, but most common sort of weather patterns globally that can have major impacts on things. People wouldn't understand, I think, the amount of different patterns and how globally water temperatures, the Madden-Julian oscillation. Maybe we can really geek out one of these days. But but El Nino, the North Atlantic oscillation, these different global patterns. But El Nino and La Nina are definitely two of the most, I think, well-known. They've gotten a lot of publicity, and certainly here recently we've had a lot of La Nina talk because we had a somewhat unusual, what's called a triple dip. La Nina. We've had 3 consecutive years of La Nina up until now, which, to really dumb it down, La Nina is the cooling of the water off the coast of Central and South America.
And when we say cooling, too, we're not saying record-breaking cooling. We're talking minimal difference.
Yes.
Can make big implications. So the official La Nina is colder than 0.5 degrees Celsius of the normal water temperature in the Pacific Ocean.
Yes.
I know that sounds crazy, but because of the colder water, that can have a completely different forecast pattern or implication on the forecast pattern and eventually our weather.
And it does.
What's the easiest way to explain it?
Gosh, where do we I'm so used to having maps and graphs to show this, so it's kind of hard. But you start to alter the jet stream patterns. Yeah. And in a very broad sense, speaking, let's kind of keep it regional. For us, a La Nina pattern, especially during the winter months, does tend to lead to overall milder, but also drier. Yeah. Which is pretty much what we had this past winter. Yeah. El Nino, literally the opposite.
The opposite. Yeah. If you're a snow lover fan, you would always grow up, anytime you heard the word El Nino, especially in Kentucky. Oh, this is our year. Yeah. Like, we're going to get the big one.
El Ninos can be fun if you like active weather.
Yes.
I'm already a little excited about our upcoming winter.
Yeah, for sure.
El Nino.
For sure.
Because they can tend to be fun.
I like to think of it, too, like this is really dumbing it down. Mm-hmm. Like, almost to the point to where it's too dumb.
Yeah. Well.
La Nina, I literally think of, and growing up, how I remembered it before I had any meteorology degree, I take the L and I put the dip, and you have a more dipped jet stream in the middle of the country.
Yeah.
El Nino, you have a more active jet stream that is more flat further south.
Yes.
That jet basically is going straight across the Gulf of Mexico. I think of winter severe weather.
Yeah. And El Nino winters around here can be really strange. They can go either way. And while there are sort of these broad overall definitions that go with La Nina or El Nino, there are other factors that can also really play into that. Mm-hmm. La Nina typically produces a really dry West Coast winter.
Yeah.
If you think back to this previous winter, one of the wettest and snowiest on records, thanks to some other factors that were in play. So it's not clear cut every single time. You can, just like this past winter, overall it was mild. It was a typical La Nina winter, except for about that 7-day period right around Christmas when it was crazy cold.
Yeah.
You can get little breaks, the pattern will relax a little bit enough. So you have to speak in sort of generalities with these two patterns. One other little fun fact, where did the name come from? El Nino means boy child.
In Spanish.
And it references usually right around Christmas is when the water temperatures start to warm up. So boy child, Jesus, Christmas. That's how it's got its name.
And La Nina is girl child.
Girl child, yes.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Just for people that may not know, or maybe our diehard Are You Serious listeners who have listened to all 10, we appreciate it. If you want a basic understanding, an easy way to kind of watch this progress, because we don't just talk about this during winter. We don't talk about this during hurricane season. This is an ongoing thing with the winds in the Pacific. So typically a neutral phase is when you don't have El Nino or La Nina. Your trade winds are going to be more active.
Jokingly referred to as El Nada.
Yeah, El Nada.
Nothing.
Nothing at all. If you want to look at the forecast, some of the basic ways to do it is if you type in INSO.
Yeah.
ENSO forecast, ENSO, which means El Nino Southern Oscillation. Type that into Google. You will be able to see both forecasts and probability all the way through the next 12 months.
Yes.
And if you look at that, there is a very strong probability that there will be an El Nino. Now, to that point, how strong would that El Nino be?
Right. And that is the big question leading into hurricane season. And we refer to how strong will the El Nino be, basically refers to how warm does that water get off the Central American coast and to what depth. It's also the depth of that warm water. Is it really deep? And a lot of that, and again, gets really complicated, depends literally on the trade winds in the Indian Ocean and the Central Pacific Ocean and how they shift the warmer waters. So it's complicated.
Yeah.
But there's generalities that we can follow, which is
take a snow forecast, take a severe weather forecast, and then think of all the complications from that.
Yeah.
And there's still more for El Nino and La Niña.
Yeah.
It is complex.
It is very complex. But generally speaking, like we said, around here, generally speaking, El Nino favors a overall quieter hurricane season because of the altering jet stream.
Yeah.
You tend to get more wind shear across the Atlantic Ocean, which tends to delay storms or keep them from forming. El Nino winters around here tend to be really wet because, as you mentioned, you get the jet stream that's typically further south, kind of comes into California, dips across the middle of the country. A lot of time it makes that dip over the Gulf of Mexico. You get that kind of energy flowing over the Gulf of Mexico that is always warm.
Yeah.
And you get frequent storms that develop, and they kind of ride up the East Coast.
Yeah.
So you get a lot more rain. You get a lot more precipitation locally from a typical El Nino winter. And it also bumps up the chances that you could see some wintry weather if you can get that cold air timed out just right.
Yeah,
so
it's a timing thing.
I enjoy those El Nino winters, but they can also, it doesn't take much to kind of shift that jet stream just north a little bit, and you can also get a lot of severe weather even in the middle of the winter with an El Nino pattern.
That jet stream on a traditional El Nino is basically right over South Carolina.
Yeah.
You get one that's a little bit weaker. You have fluctuations to the north. You get one that's stronger. You have more to the south.
Yeah.
I think the big $1 million question, and I wish we knew the answer, and this is what we don't know, how will, and we do for a little bit, but how will this El Nino strengthen? To what degree? And then also, just because you have a strong El Nino doesn't mean that there's not opportunities of windows there for hurricanes. Because what happens is typically with warm ocean waters, which we're already seeing, we'll get a hurricane to come through. And if you have that strong jet, that hurricane is typically tore apart or directed somewhere else.
Yes.
So it's going to be the $1 million question for us this season is, okay, let's look at where that jet is. And I think we're going to have to look at that a little bit more. And how is that going to play into the development, let alone, if there is one out there, the future forecast of that cyclone itself?
Yeah. All very important. And I've been looking into some stuff about El Ninos, and the big question is, as we were saying, is how strong does this year's El Nino get?
Yeah.
But we also mentioned when we did the hurricane season forecast podcast was, we're also sort of countering that with the unseasonably warm water temperatures in the Atlantic, which tends to kind of counter El Nino. So that's why you're not seeing a forecast really far from average, because we have this El Nino says slow season, warm water temperature says busy season. We're kind of very close to average. But one of the interesting aspects of El Nino, especially a stronger El Nino in the Atlantic, is that wind shear, that jet stream, tends to rip storms apart in the central Atlantic. So we all talk about the big clusters of storms, the waves that come off the African coast. Those are the ones that tend to get disrupted the most. You got to be careful in El Nino, because if one of those is strong enough, that wind shear can kind of keep it weak, and it can just kind of trudge along and get sheared apart and get sheared apart until it gets north of the Caribbean, just north of Puerto Rico. El Nino years tend to favor development in that area. And we always say, and I was always taught a long time ago, if you get a storm that makes it right around Puerto Rico or just north of Puerto Rico, you really got to watch it.
Yeah.
Because that puts it sort of in that general vicinity on a global scale. It's basically in our backyard. You get something, Puerto Rico, Northern Caribbean, doesn't take much for it to kind of sneak its way into our area. So that's something we're going to be watching. We call them kind of late bloomers. Typical hurricane, it forms in the central Atlantic, safely curves out to sea, no big deal. So I think we're going to see this year maybe more in close development, maybe more homegrown development.
Which typically we see that in the early time, but it's not as more powerful storms.
Yeah.
With La Niña, you would see more waves coming off the African coast. Weaker waves, too, would make it further west. So that's really good. I've tried to explain this to the best of our ability. I feel like the main question that we have to watch from now on is, so what? What does this mean for the next month? What does this mean for, June, July, August? That's going to be the million-dollar question, and that's why Colorado State exists. Because they are the ones that pump money into all the oscillations and the forecasts and the water temperatures that they're just way smarter at it than we are. So we love that.
Yeah, and we'll be looking for their update. And again, NOAA's update comes out later this month, and I'm sure it's probably going to follow fairly
typically you wouldn't see anything
closely
too crazy.
The same. Yeah. But like I said, you can't just broad brush an El Nino hurricane season and say it's going to be quiet, because in addition to the warm water temperatures in the Atlantic, also forecast for a much more active African monsoon season.
Yeah.
A more robust monsoon season in Africa means bigger and stronger clusters of storms that roll off the African coast. If that's holding in, August, September, October, then we could very easily be busy. And we've had plenty of hurricane hits in here in an El Nino year.
Yeah, and that's the thing is El Nino or La Niña doesn't really change our impacts.
It doesn't.
Takes one.
Yep.
And regardless of where you may read some stuff, a.k.a. some of the other news outlets, not in town but around, I think
more on the national level.
On the national level, I think it's to a point to where you see the El Nino and they want to kind of downtrade. Oh, it's going to be a quiet hurricane season. Don't let your guard down. Don't
let your guard down. And in a lot of ways, especially as we were mentioning, and we'll call it out, I don't care, on the bigger scale, more national media outlets, it's a lot like climate change. You can't say that this hurricane is because of climate change, and we can't say that hurricane is because of El Nino or La Nina. That's not how it works.
No.
So just keep that in mind as we head into summer. Stick with your local guys. We'll keep it real.
It's crazy because El Nino and La Nina is synoptic meteorology.
Yeah.
Broad scale.
Yep.
And then you get down to the hurricane level, and you're talking mesoscale meteorology, but it's influenced by your synoptic level.
Yeah.
Basically, for people that have never done weather, and you're like, what are we talking about? Let me just reframe this if you're listening. You go up to where planes fly.
Yeah.
Basically, the forecast there dictates everything below. And everything that's happening at your ground is happening because of what's above. Our atmosphere is a fluid. Same way with this El Nino and La Nina. So we're talking synoptic or wide scale forecast patterns to try to dictate what's going to happen on the meso or even micro scale.
Micro scale, yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we're talking about, 8 counties?
Yeah.
What's going to happen for us in October, September? So it's tough. It's not.
It is.
It's not a science that we've nailed down completely, but we do know based off previous trends.
Yeah.
Hey, this is what we can expect. So I don't know if we did a good job or not, but
that was pretty intense. We'll see how many people we lose on this one. People are like canceling their downloads. They're like, I can't listen to these guys anymore.
That's all they did was talking Spanish.
Right?
You said we were going to do it, and I was like, oh, man, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, well, we did it.
Let's talk about what's coming up.
Yeah.
So we are working on our hurricane special, and I am excited. We talked about doing a live podcast.
Yes.
In last episode.
And a lot of people said they would show up, so we're going to have to hold them to it, especially if we decide to do this.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to say a date yet, but let's just say it is in the works.
It is in the works. It'll be in June as part of our sort of kickoff to hurricane season. So, yeah, we're still working on that, and I think that'll be fun. And So y'all better show up.
I'm thinking it will be like us two, live crowd.
Yeah.
Which is going to be weird.
Yeah.
And then maybe a mic to where people can ask questions so other people can hear their question.
I love it. Yeah.
What would be embarrassing is if no one goes up to the mic.
Or no one shows up. So and it's just me and you again hanging out at a bar somewhere, which may be our most popular.
Oh, that would be good. I don't know. Oh, Lord.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. So we'll be working on that. Let's change the subject. Let's talk about some fun stuff.
Yeah, let's talk about life.
Let's talk about what happened to me last week. Doing the 11 o'clock news. I'm going up to the BAM, which we've talked about before, our big blank monitor, which is where we do weather.
I don't know if I've heard this story.
I posted about it on Facebook.
Oh, must not follow you.
Probably not. Nobody else does. My open ran, and now you're certified most accurate forecast.
Yeah.
And it's literally the second that open introducing me was shutting down, and I was about to start my 11 p.m. newscast weather, a gnat flew in my nose. Flew in my nose. And it proceeded to crawl around in my nose for 3.5 minutes.
I'll be honest with you. Lauren was the one who told me about this. Mm-hmm. And if it were me, I would have just picked it. and just went to town.
The entire time that I was doing my forecast, my brain kept going back and forth between, okay, Jamie, you can get through this. Or, Jamie, just run out of the studio and blow your nose, because it was driving me insane. It was driving me insane. 3 times, I think I tried. I haven't even gone back to watch, but I just remember 3 times sort of casually doing this, which it's kind of hard to casually do that when you're, on the air. But I did, and every time I did, it would relieve it for about 10 seconds, and then it would start crawling around again in my nose. But in my heart of hearts, my soul wanted to leave my body and run out of there and just blow my nose so hard. But I made it through, and then I ran out of the studio and blew my nose. So that was fun. That was last week. Yeah. That was fun.
I really think I would just be like, excuse me.
Yeah. In hindsight, I should have just stopped and said, y'all, I've got a gnat in my nose. But I try to be professional every once in a while, so that was fun.
I lost my voice this week.
Yeah.
Which I'm still recovering. I feel like I'm good, and then I'm not. And it's all freaking allergies.
Yeah.
I feel fine.
Yeah.
Other than whatever this is. I woke up Thursday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you were sounding awful.
Awful.
Yeah. Yeah, it was bad.
It got to the point to where I think I had like 8 cups of tea during the show.
Yeah.
I hate tea.
Yeah.
With a passion.
Mm-hmm.
Tea and cough drops. I would keep a cough drop and awful.
Well, you did.
And I think it was from gardening.
Probably so, being outside. Thankfully, you recovered enough to make it to the Derby party.
Yeah, had a great time.
We all did. That was for Habitat for Humanity.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the WMBF crew was there, so we had a good time with that. I'm sure our amazing producer, Anya, will pull up some pictures. But, yeah, it was fun. Everybody was dressed great.
Shoes.
Broke out my pink shoes that I wear maybe once every 2 or 3 years. So broke those out, and you and your suspenders, and we were judging best dressed.
Yeah.
Which I have a feeling, had he not been an employee, Darion may have been pretty high up in the best dressed. He was looking pretty sharp that night.
And he already told me that he returned his jacket, too.
I'm not sure we should have said that, but yeah, he wore that jacket one night, and now he's sending it back.
And now it's going to Amazon.
Yep, now it's going back to Amazon.
There's your tip. So. It didn't fit right.
Didn't fit. Took him all night to wear it just to make sure. But yeah, it didn't fit.
It was too snug.
Yeah.
Fun time. Anytime we could do that is always a blast. We're also getting into that time of year I look forward to. Festivals are really ramping up. Farmers markets are back in town. CCMF is weeks away.
A couple weeks, yeah.
Coastal Carolina baseball is fighting to maybe host some regionals for the College World Series.
Yep.
Like, holy smokes.
Yeah, busy time.
May and April is packed.
Yeah.
When you're not running around like crazy, what are you up to right now? We got about 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Wow, this flew by fast. Still working in the garden.
Okay.
Posted on Facebook the other day. I harvested radishes, which are fun. if you're a beginner gardener and if you want something really easy to grow,
we should
radishes
do a beginner gardener segment.
Yeah, I'd love it.
I don't think we'll do a whole episode, but we could do a little segment.
Yeah.
Bring in something next week, and then we'll be like, oh, hey, what do you got from Jamie's garden?
So, so radishes. Pulled those radishes out of the ground Sunday. That's fun. Super fun fact about radishes. Seed into the ground to harvest about 30 days. So it's really good for if you're impatient, if you just want to try gardening, give it a try. Radishes are the way to go. What you do with them after you harvest them, I have no idea. Like, I'll have a little bit of a radish in a salad maybe. Thanks to everybody on Facebook who said, like, you can roast them like potatoes. You can throw them in a roast, a little olive oil, salt and pepper. Would be good. So I'll try that. I feel like a roast would be good. Yeah. About like a big chuck roast. Yeah. And basically pie. Use the radishes as like potatoes. Yeah. Apparently they taste
carrots
basically the same once they're roasted. So
we are kind of getting out of the roasting season, so you better do it early.
Yeah.
No one wants to eat a roast when it's 90 degrees outside, and if you do, I judge you.
Yeah. So that's all I'm working on, gardening and putzing along with that.
Nice.
Napping.
Love a good nap.
Thinking about a summer vacation.
Okay.
You know, I usually try to get somewhere like in July before the craziness of hurricane season shows up.
Yeah.
I don't know where I want to go.
We don't have a summer vacation this year.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're going home.
Yeah. You know, like my winter vacations, I like those, somewhere where it's cold and snowy, and those tend to be a little more adventure vacations where I'm hiking and exploring or whatever. I like my summer vacations to be nothing, just chill, but somewhere warm.
Hopefully Matt B1 doesn't hear this, but you should maybe try to plan it out to go to the Bahamas area August.
Right. Yeah.
And maybe catch one.
I learned a long time ago in this business, I never plan any trips in August or September.
I don't
even
either.
About the first week of October.
And I really want to.
I had a couple of vacations ruined and canceled and made to come back early because of hurricanes. So, yeah.
I would rather just plan it late.
Yeah.
Wait till the week of and be like, oh, we're good.
It looks quiet.
Cool.
I'm going to go somewhere.
I'm going to go.
Yeah.
So I've been looking at some concerts and festivals for like September, and I'm like, we'll just buy the week of.
You like to do stuff. You do stuff. You and the wife, y'all do stuff. I like to do stuff sometimes. Summer, I don't like to do stuff. I hate the heat. I hate the humidity. I get grumpy in the summer. Overall, I start hibernating once we get daily like 88 and over. I pretty much go into hibernation.
Yeah.
I don't. And the older I get, the grumpier I get, and the worse I hate the heat. I can't stand it. So I definitely don't do stuff in the summer. Yeah.
It's hibernation for you.
Yeah, it is hibernation season. Yeah.
If I'm out in the summer, well, I mean, I do a lot of yard work and all, but try to get a tan, trying to get the skin darker.
Yeah.
But I will do it to where early morning, late evening.
Yeah.
Nothing beats the evening.
But even around here.
Yeah, about July and August, it's awful.
Yeah, it's 90 degrees at 10 in the morning. Like, nope, not doing it. Not doing it.
And that's where we'll have a What's Jamie Watching segment.
Right. Maybe I'll be into something other than a British gardening show by that point.
Oh, I cannot believe how quick these go by now.
Yeah.
That is it.
All right.
That is it for episode 10.
10? Yeah.
Does it feel like we've done 10?
It doesn't.
I don't think so either.
So
we're still learning.
I guess that's a good thing. Yeah, we're still learning and figuring this out. So keep the questions coming and do all that, and we'll get around to them.
I don't know what we're doing next episode. It'll be a surprise.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We didn't really know what we were doing this episode until 45 minutes ago.
And we're sorry if we took you to a weather lesson.
Yeah. Maybe we should maybe the next episode we'll lighten it up a little bit.
Yeah, we'll have
do
fun.
Something a little more fun.
Figure out something fun.
Yeah.
Sorry if you thought this was the worst one to date. That does it for us. Are You Serious? The weather conversation between you and us. We will see you next Thursday.
Thanks, y'all.